Yeah, emotional health, to put simply, is the ability to think and feel at the same time. So people tend toward one or the other. Daniel Siegel, who invented this form of sort of this field in psychology called interpersonal neurobiology, he is what informs a lot of the way I think about what makes us tick. But he talks about the difference between chaos and rigidity. And chaos is when the more feeling parts of our brain, lower down part, midbrain, more than the cortex, the thinking part, is very activated, but it's like raw emotion. It's in the flow. Having that emotion and flow is good, but it can be so much on this extreme that it would be called chaos. And the opposite would be rigidity, which is that we're completely cut off from any kind of internal intuitive emotional aspect, and it's just logic and control and reason. So we want logic and control. Logic and sort of like being able to dampen the feelings and stay like organized inside. And we want emotion. They actually are both really important. But when they can come together at the same time, then there's this really nice balance where you have the feeling, but you're not flooded with it because you have another part that's really grounded and containing it and understanding it and thinking straight. So when we can really feel and still think straight and still have a broad, like our perception isn't narrowed down to thinking like, oh, the world's it's like we can really think clearly, but really also attend to the feeling. There's sort of like this resilience that comes from that, so that we can have emotion, which we need to have a rich life and to know what we need. Emotion's really important, and to connect with other people and not be shut down or numb. But we also need, be able to think and plan and have perspective. So we want those both to happen. And that's actually we can like literally practice that. And that's kind of what therapy is, or mindfulness. It's like, how do you get in touch with the feelings, but in a way that's still grounded and observing and developing a self that's just tracking and clear. And the more you do it, the more it becomes habit. Yeah, this is getting into mindfulness, so I can kind of describe what that is and how therapy uses mindfulness. So mindfulness is what I was just saying about being able to think and feel at the same time, or being able to, when I say think, it's like have the observer, like have a part of you that isn't like just lost in the experience, like swimming in it or drowning in it, or like almost barely aware of what's going on, just kind of the pure feeling. But is able to actually step back. Sometimes I'll tell my clients, it's like we want to attend to the feeling, but we don't want to like drop into it. We want to just like be an inch, like not far away, just like an inch back so we can see it. It's not going away and ignoring it, but it's also not falling into it. It's like keeping our centeredness and our groundedness, but looking at it. Kind of like if you're a parent and you're trying to soothe a child, you'd really kind of go in and you really be with the feeling, but you wouldn't be like, oh, I know, you would kind of keep your bearings a little bit, So mindfulness then is why we do a lot of the observing. It's just to like develop that observing part, which is the most upper part of the brain, the most human, the advanced part of our brain that can kind of quantify. And we keep it online sometimes by just saying things like, okay, well, how does that feeling, is it hot or cold or heavy or light, or what, like where is it, and does it spread across? Sometimes these questions I'll ask my clients to really like map it for me. And it's not because the answer matters so much, it's more because it brings on their curiosity. They're like, okay, I'm like working with this now, I'm thinking about it, I'm noticing it, I'm tracking it, which lets them stay, grounded and more like regulated, but still attending to it and working with it so that the feeling kind of feels heard. It feels like, okay, I was seen, I've got processed, now I'm resolved and I can go away. So that's mindfulness, which is just observing without judgment. Because obviously if we're judging it, that's just activating it to either shut down and go away or get more, it's not going to help it resolve. So if we're just observing ourself and our experience without judgment, it's forcing all the parts of our brain to work at the same time, the different levels, in harmony with each other. And that the more we do that, the more that gets wired in neurobiologically, so that we're more what's called integrated. And we can then, in the future, be able to have feelings without losing it. And the nice thing about therapy that's a little different than just doing mindfulness is you have a coach. It's like a coaching you in that moment, because it is tricky not to go to judgment or to the defenses like distracting or whatever, but like to very gently kind of help you come back, slow you down, and then also giving some of the care that's needed to those places can really also template self-compassion. My husband laughs at me. He's like, did any one of your clients become enlightened this week? And I'm like, kinda, because it's like at some point in therapy, you stop just dealing with problems and really like, what is it like? Like they start coming in and saying, whoa, I didn't know this was even possible. I feel so, one of the words that they say a lot is, I feel so present. It's like they're just like, it's like their system is there working. It's like nothing's shut down, nothing's deactivated, being suppressed. It's like everything's kind of working together, and they're in their body. They feel strong. Actually, one word for this is core state. It's like different than just an emotion. If we can let ourselves have an emotion and then it passes, it sort of leaves us with this feeling of just being with ourselves. And it's a really nice feeling. It's like a sense of truth, a sense of often empathy or compassion or appreciation of life, a sense of calm, openness, grounded, and then, as I said, present. And everything looks really different from that kind of state where the brain's just sort of working. It's just so simple. As long as we get it sort of all talking together and working, it's beautiful, the experience, what emerges.